What do you do when the person you built your entire life around is suddenly gone? No one prepares you for this kind of silence, the kind that lingers in the hallway, in the kitchen, in the empty side of the bed. You may have shared decades of love, laughter, and routine. And now what remains? A quiet house, a full closet, a heart carrying more memories than it knows what to do with. The loss of a spouse isn't just about grief, it's about relearning how to exist in a world that suddenly feels unfamiliar. And while friends may offer condolences and the paperwork may pile up, the real question is, how do you carry on? This isn't about legal forms or funeral arrangements. This is about the slow, often invisible work of healing. Today, I'll share 6 deeply personal, practical things that many older adults have found essential not to erase the pain, but to begin living alongside it. If this speaks to your heart, I hope you'll stay with me until the end. And if it brings you clarity or comfort, consider subscribing so you won't miss future reflections meant just for you. Let's begin. 1. Let yourself feel before you try to fix anything. In the aftermath of loss, it's instinctual and to want to do something, anything to restore a sense of order. The house feels unfamiliar, the air heavier, and so we rush to clean out closets, make phone calls, reorganize drawers, or take on tasks that in any other moment could wait. But beneath that sudden busyness lies a deeper truth. We're often trying to fix what cannot be fixed grief. There's a quiet myth in our culture, especially among older generations, that strength means stoicism, that tears should be hidden, that sorrow should be handled privately, or worse, pushed through. But what if strength is something else entirely? What if it means sitting still with the ache, letting it rise like a tide and trusting that it won't drown you? Grief is not linear, it's not a checklist to complete. It's a living process, fluid, unpredictable, and deeply personal. According to mental health experts, when grief is suppressed, it doesn't go away. It embeds itself in the body and the psyche, often returning later as physical illness, anxiety, or emotional numbness. What we do not feel, we cannot heal. Consider Eleanor, a 79-year-old widow who refused to cry for months after her husband's passing. "I didn't want to fall apart," she said. "I thought if I started, I wouldn't be able to stop." But when she finally allowed herself to grieve in the quiet of her garden, where they had once sat together every evening, she discovered that her sadness didn't undo her. It gave her space to remember, to honor, and eventually to breathe again. Feeling doesn't mean losing control, it means making room. Room to cry, to talk about your spouse, to say their name out loud, to feel angry, confused, even relieved. Yes, relief is a valid emotion too, especially after long illness or caregiving. These emotions do not betray your love. They reflect its depth. Give yourself that room. Light a candle, hold their photograph, sit in their chair. Let the tears come, even if they surprise you, because grief that is given voice becomes sorrow that can be carried, not buried. Healing doesn't begin with action. It begins with permission. Permission to feel lost, to not have the answers, to weep over their sweater, or sit in silence for hours without needing to explain why. Before you start fixing the paperwork or returning phone calls, tend to what's most fragile, your heart. It's not about solving the pain. It's about acknowledging it gently and honestly. Letting yourself feel is not a failure of strength. It is the first quiet act of courage. 2. Reach out even if you'd rather be alone. After losing a spouse, the desire to retreat inward can feel overwhelming. The world outside seems too loud, too fast, too full of reminders. Staying home, letting the phone ring unanswered, skipping church or lunch with friends, these may feel like ways to protect yourself. And in the short term, solitude can offer a necessary refuge. But when solitude lingers too long, it quietly becomes something else: isolation. The danger of isolation is that it feels deceptively safe. But research from the National Council on Aging shows that prolonged social withdrawal can increase the risk of depression, cognitive decline, and even physical illness in seniors. Human connection isn't just comforting, it's essential. This doesn't mean you need to attend parties or put on a cheerful mask. Reaching out can be as simple as returning a phone call, accepting an invitation to coffee, or writing a letter. These small gestures are not about pretending you're okay. They're about giving others the chance to sit beside you in your not okayness. Mr. Calvin, 82, lost his wife of 47 years and didn't speak to anyone outside his family for nearly 2 months. "I didn't know what to say," he later admitted. But one day he walked into the corner barber shop, not for a haircut, but for the habit of it. The barber, who had known them both, greeted him without pity, just with presence. That 10-minute exchange became the beginning of his return to the world, not as the man he was, but as the man he was becoming. You don't need to talk about your grief right away. Sometimes just being around familiar voices, or even new ones, can start to mend the torn edges of loneliness. A neighbor, a community center, a support group, or even a grandchild's laugh can offer reminders that life still pulses around you, gently inviting you to rejoin it. And if the thought of reaching out feels impossible, start with this. Open the window. Let in the morning air. Step outside for 5 minutes. Say hello to someone passing by. Healing often begins not with words, but with proximity, with letting the world see that you're still here. You are not meant to carry this sorrow alone. Even one connection, no matter how small, can begin to lift the weight. Not all at once, not completely, but enough to let in a little light. 3. Rebuild a routine even when nothing feels the same. When you lose the person you shared your everyday life with, time begins to unravel. Mornings bleed into afternoons, nights stretch on endlessly, and the days seem to pass without shape. The routines you once moved through without thinking, making 2 cups of coffee, folding laundry side by side, saying goodnight, are now quiet echoes. What once grounded you has vanished, and in its place is a drifting, unanchored existence. That's why rebuilding a routine, however small, matters more than you might think. Not because it distracts you from your grief, but because it gives your body, and eventually your heart, something steady to hold on to. It doesn't have to be rigid or full. It doesn't need to look like it used to. Start small. Maybe it's waking up at the same time each morning, opening the blinds, playing a favorite record during breakfast, taking a walk at dusk. These are not just motions, they are quiet promises to yourself that life is still here, inviting you forward one moment at a time. Take the story of Ruth, 81, who lost her husband after 53 years of shared rituals. For weeks, she stayed in bed well past noon, skipped meals, and left the mail unopened on the table. Everything felt pointless, she said. But one morning, she forced herself to make a pot of oatmeal, something she and her husband used to do together every Sunday. That one act didn't erase the pain, but it gave her a thread to pull on. The next day, she opened the curtains. Then she called her sister. Slowly, quietly, she began to stitch her days together again. There is dignity in the mundane: folding laundry, watering plants, making the bed. These small tasks are not signs of forgetting, they are signs of choosing to live with the memory rather than in the absence. Grief steals structure. It empties the frame of your days. Rebuilding routine is your way of drawing the lines again, not as they were, but as they can be. And on the days you feel you can't do anything at all, let your routine be simple. Get up, breathe, step outside, come back in. That's enough. That counts. Because healing doesn't demand productivity. It only asks that you stay in motion, even gently, until the rhythm of living begins to return. 4. Redefine who you are beyond the role of spouse. For so many years, your name was spoken in the same breath as theirs. You were Bill and Marlene, or George's wife, or Carol's husband. You had shared routines, shared friends, shared memories, the kind that run so deep they become a part of your very identity. So when your spouse passes, it's not just a person who's gone. A part of you goes quiet too. Who are you now when you're no longer part of a pair? This question can feel both terrifying and strangely hollow. Not because you've forgotten yourself, but because it's been so long since you stood fully in your own reflection. But this is not the end of who you are. It's the start of a return. For decades, your love may have asked you to set certain parts of yourself aside, goals postponed, passions dimmed, roles that took priority. Perhaps you stopped painting, or traveling, or dancing alone in the living room. Now, in this painful emptiness, there is a whisper. Come back. That's what happened to Henry. He had spent much of his adult life introducing himself as Joan's husband, proud to be her partner in all things. After she passed, he felt adrift until one day, cleaning out a drawer, he found a sketch pad from his college years. He hadn't drawn in over 4 decades. That week, he bought a new pencil set and began again. Not as a distraction, but as a reconnection to a piece of himself that still lived. Redefining your identity doesn't mean leaving the past behind. It means allowing your future to have a shape of its own. Your spouse will always be part of your story, but your story didn't end with theirs. You are still here, still capable of learning, growing, giving, still allowed to laugh without guilt, still welcome to explore what brings you peace, what gives your life new color. Think of this not as a reinvention, but as a remembering, a gentle uncovering of what's always been there, waiting. And if the only thing you discover right now is that you're allowed to ask the question, who am I now? Then you've already begun. Because rediscovery isn't loud or rushed, it's quiet, patient, and deeply brave. 5, face the finances, one step at a time. Grief has a way of clouding everything. Even the most basic tasks can feel impossible, let alone sitting down to face bills, insurance papers, or account statements. You might find yourself staring at a pile of unopened envelopes or putting off that call to the bank because you just can't bear to say the words out loud, "My spouse has passed." And yet, gently, quietly, the financial matters must be faced, not because they're more important than your emotions, but because uncertainty adds weight to an already heavy heart. Clarity, even when painful, brings a kind of peace, and you don't have to do it all at once. Start with one thing, and maybe today it's locating the will. Tomorrow it's notifying Social Security. Later in the week, you make a list of recurring bills and cancel what's no longer needed. Bit by bit, the fog starts to lift, not because it's easy, but because you're no longer avoiding what frightens you. Consider Mr. Ray, 80, who found himself overwhelmed when his wife passed. She had always handled the finances. For weeks, he let the mail stack up. But with the help of his niece, they created a simple checklist based on resources like AARP and trusted legal advisors. Each task they completed, from updating account names to confirming insurance benefits, became more than paperwork. It became a form of quiet reclamation of his life, his agency, his stability. You don't have to face it alone. Ask for help from someone you trust, a child, a financial planner, an elder law attorney, a friend who's been through it. Many communities even offer free support services for widowed seniors navigating this very stage of life. And if numbers were never your comfort zone, that's okay too. You're not expected to know it all. You're expected to begin. Finances aren't just numbers. They represent the life you built together. And now they become the foundation for the life you will continue on your terms, in your time. So be gentle with yourself. Take breaks. Cry if you need to, but return. Open one envelope. Make one phone call. Check one item off the list. And know this: every small act of clarity is a gift to your future self, one that says, I am still here, I am capable, and I will find my footing again. 6, find a new purpose, even if it starts small. In the quiet that follows loss, days can stretch on without shape or meaning. You wake up not knowing what you're waking for. The house is still, the calendar is blank, and even when your body moves, your spirit may still feel like it's sitting still, stuck in a space between what was and what is. This is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is the weight of grief searching for direction. When we lose a spouse, we often lose the very rhythm of our purpose, caring for them, sharing life with them, planning around their needs and joys. And without that anchor, even simple decisions, what to eat, where to go, how to spend an afternoon, can feel painfully hollow. But here's something tender and true. Purpose doesn't need to be grand. It just needs to matter to you. For Lillian, 84, purpose began with a single act: writing birthday cards. Not for family, but for strangers. She joined a program that sends handwritten notes to seniors in care homes. "It gave me a reason to sit down with a cup of tea and think about someone else," she said. "And in doing that, I found a little piece of myself again." Purpose can be a plant you water, a book you write in each morning, a visit to the animal shelter once a week, volunteering at the library, baking cookies for the church social, telling stories to your grandchildren about the love you shared and the life that shaped you. You might still cry while doing these things. That's okay. Meaning and mourning often sit side by side. Studies show that seniors who engage in purposeful activity, even small, quiet ones, experience lower levels of depression, improved memory, and greater overall life satisfaction. It's not about productivity. It's about belonging to life again. If you're not ready yet, that's okay too. Purpose doesn't rush. It waits for you, like a soft light in another room. When you're ready, even cracking the door a little is enough. Ask yourself gently, what is one small thing I could do today that gives back, that connects, that feels like me? And then honor it not as a duty, but as a whisper from the part of you that still longs to give, to love, to be needed. Because you are still needed, still full of life, still deeply, beautifully here. Losing a spouse is not something you get over. It's something you learn to live with, one in breath, 1 hour, one unfamiliar morning at a time. The world may feel different now, quieter, slower, harder to recognize, but within you there is still a life that deserves to be lived. You've walked through 6 gentle steps today, allowing yourself to feel, reaching out when it's hard, rebuilding a rhythm, rediscovering who you are, facing the unknowns, and slowly letting purpose find its way back in. Not every step will come easily. Some days you may move forward. Others, you may simply sit still, and that counts too. There is no timeline for healing, but there is power in beginning, even in the smallest of ways. So let me ask you, what is one act of care, just one, you can offer yourself today? If this message resonated with you, I invite you to share a thought or memory in the comments. You never know who might be reading, quietly needing to hear that they are not alone in their sorrow. And if you'd like to keep exploring what it means to grow through loss, feel free to subscribe. There's still light ahead and you're walking toward it.